The blight left by the Thundercats in 1985 was sadly not an isolated incident. It seemed Rankin-Bass, which had previously given us classics like The Last Unicorn and The Hobbit, would not be satisfied with children's television until every kid in America went back to radio.
This is not a toy.
The Thundercats was the headliner in a trilogy of cartoon catastrophes by Rankin-Bass that included the much less well-known Silverhawks and Tiger Sharks. The Silverhawks became the middle sibling that, while not as well known as Thundercats, wasn't the fart in the wind like Tiger Sharks. On the RetroBlasting radiometer, Silverhawks is marginally more tolerable than the Thundercats, but for the most pithy of reasons. As a kid, I confess I was initially excited by the Silverhawks. They were metal, they were shiny, they had lasers and flew around in space with starships. I was intrigued. Then again, I had no idea how subversive and disturbing this whole concept would be. I hadn't seen Silverhawks since it first aired in 1986. Back then I watched a lot of episodes of that show. But it concerned me that I couldn't remember the content of the actual episodes. Time for a revisit to see just how messed up this show really is.
Born of a time beyond time, they sacrificed their human bodies.
Well, that didn't take long. The Silverhawks are a group of volunteers from Earth who allow themselves to be turned into cyborg bird people by what can only be described as a Vulcan Nazi scientist.
One day we'll be able to send an ordinary person 100 light years into space, General.
They signed the permission slip, so he proceeds to hollow them out of their human skin with a melon baller and stuff their heads and spinal cords into these shiny metal robot bodies.
We will create a superior race?
What's disturbing is how cavalier the scientist is about the entire process. At one point, the twins go into cardiac arrest, and he says not to worry because he can just give them robotic hearts, which relieves all the military brass, and everyone laughs like they were foolish for ever second-guessing this program.
How will the twins operate without real hearts?
They'll be fine, General.
Even more disturbing is the fact that these characters did this as volunteers. Normally in stories like this, like RoboCop, the person who gets cyborged is an unwilling participant who wakes up after this horrible process has already been completed without their permission. But in this case, these 5 jokers just walked arm in arm, skipping the whole way into this absolutely malignant situation. Then there's the Copper Kid, an alien who speaks in whistles like R2-D2.
Here's a volunteer from the planet of the mimes, a mathematical genius.
The planet of the mimes. Were these writers serious? There's a planet of the mimes? I'm so disappointed in Princess Leia right now. She should have given up this planet instead of Dantooine. I'd pay to see the Death Star destroy the homeworld of the mimes. These new cyborg birds are assigned to a police station in the Galaxy of Limbo, a place where the laws of physics make no sense at all. You can breathe in space, which makes me wonder why they need those cool masks, as they seem to use them at random. Limbo also has gravity in the void, so you can fall into nothingness, which most of the time makes their fancy wings pointless and about as effective as those flying squirrel parachute things. They are hawks that cannot fly. They fall in aerobatic formations like glitzy skydivers of the future. What's the point? You're telling me that this wacky scientist who's already pushed the moral boundary between man and machine, who's installed lasers in their shoulders and wings in their armpits, can't give them the ability to fly on a consistent basis? Here's the scene that defines why I hate the Silverhawks. You've got the Hawks falling in peril, and Bluegrass is using a lasso to pull them back to the ship. Do you see the problems here? Let's accept that there's gravity in space, which is weird to begin with. Well, you've got these 5 characters who are Silverhawks. They have wings. They should be able to open said wings and fly back to the starship. Apparently not. So let's accept that hawks who have wings cannot fly. Well, you've still got Bluegrass, who's got a spaceship. He should be able to fly that spaceship 50 feet over to them and get them. Nope, he can't do that. He's using a lasso to get bird people who are falling in space. What's with the show? Their boss is Stargazer, a grizzled jerk in suspenders and suit pants with a cyber monocle. Their base, Hawk Haven, is a steel and electronic future fortress in the side of a floating asteroid. But Stargazer's office is a wood and plaster jobby straight out of the Maltese Falcon. Why didn't they just give Stargazer a shiny gold metal fedora welded to his head, just to make the illusion complete? As if that would be going too far after the rest of this? The Silverhawks face off against a Mumra-style villain called Monstar, an antagonist that looks like the love child of Lion-O and Satan, and lives inside a giant anus on the far side of a moon. He powers up with an evil tanning lamp that rips all his skin off, revealing an armored suit underneath that could only have been conjured up in one of Vlad the Impaler's wet dreams. He travels through space on a massive cosmic squid. Again, try not to rationalize this stuff. The writers certainly didn't. His henchmen are an eclectic band of doofuses called the Mob. There's Yes Man, a snake with a Peter Lorre complex.
Yes, boss. Certainly, boss.
Hardware, who carries a really big duffel bag around. Buzzsaw, he's a mean-looking robot of death. Mumbo Jumbo, a bull ripped from the logo for the Dow Jones. There's also a guy who can make it snow in the vacuum of space thanks to a massive tuning fork. A dude made entirely of balls. And Monstar has also employed Lady Gaga. Unlike the Thundercats, which suffers a fundamentally flawed premise, the Silverhawks' greatest weakness is a complete lack of focus. The title of the show is The Silverhawks, so I want to see the main characters in action. A lot of the time, however, the stories have little to do with the core 5 heroes, choosing instead to focus on the villains, or even devoting whole episodes to obnoxious side characters like Seymour, the space taxi driver who says, "You know what I mean," about as many times as Balky said, "Don't be ridiculous," on Perfect Strangers. Here's a sampling from one single episode.
You know what I mean? 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 You know what I mean?
The result is ignored, underdeveloped, boring heroes who are often wounded or frozen or captured in some way so other characters we don't care about can have the spotlight. As the show progresses, when they have opportunities to feature specific Silverhawks, they choose instead to start introducing new Silverhawks, probably so they can sell new toys. That said, if you thought that Panthro was a racist misstep in the legacy of the Thundercats, I hope you're sitting down. About halfway into the first half season of Silverhawks, they introduced their token black character, tricked out in gold cyborg bling with a disturbing exposed upper thigh for some reason. His name? Hotwing! Not since A Happy Singing Slave in Song of the South has children's entertainment fumbled so badly. And you can't tell me it wasn't deliberate. Well, they've all got wings, so we can get away with it. And then there's this shameless shot in the intro. Out of 5 hawks, only 1 is female, and she's the one getting ogled by the camera in a television show aimed at 5 to 8-year-olds.
Oh, pretty slick.
The real shame is Silverhawks was so close to being decent. They had a great concept, detectives in space solving cases, but didn't commit to it. Instead, they made shows about cosmic car races and guitarists in space. They didn't commit to the idea of cyborg hawks, resulting in characters that kinda fly and kinda fight, but not really. The show has no tension because the writing has no stakes. The design work is beautiful, but beyond that, there's not really much there. And that would be mirrored by the Kenner toy line, which coincidentally has a mirror finish.